All right, we're going to talk about a few other types of taxes. Just kind of list them. We're not going to do anything with some of these. Corporate income tax, just make sure you know that that is the tax that corporations pay based on the profits they make. FICA, which is the Federal Insurance Contributions Act, same thing as Social Security tax. And what they do is they're going to tax 12.4% of the first $113,700 that you make. And actually that 12.4% is split up between you and your employer. So you pay 6.2%, your employer is going to pay 6.2%, make sure you know that. But once you make $113,700 during a year, they quit taking it out of your taxes. Now most of us don't have to worry about that because we don't make that, so they're going to take all of that. But if you are someone who makes millions of dollars a year and you make $113,000 in the first 2 or 3 months, the rest of the year they're not going to take out any Social Security. Then starting in January of the next year, they'll start taking it out again. Medicare, this is health care for those people over 65, and that's 2.9% of your income. And once again, that is exactly like the FICA tax. You're going to pay half of that, your employer is going to pay half of that. So they're going to take 1.45% out of your check. They're going to take 1.45% from your employer to get the 2.9%. An excise tax is just an additional tax that the government puts on just certain items based on the fact that they know that you're going to continue to buy them. This is sometimes called a sin tax, S-I-N, because they want you to stop consuming these things. So things like gas and alcohol and tobacco, they're going to add another extra tax besides a sales tax on top of those. Estate tax, this is based on the value of money and property that someone has when they die. It has to be over $2 million. So once again, most of us don't have to worry about having that. But if you are, not even a huge farm, but farms around here, when you look at the value of the homes and their equipment and things like that, and the value is over $2 million, if that person dies, they have to pay an estate tax. And that estate tax sometimes runs close to 50%. So if your property is valued at $2 million, the government could ask you to pay close to $1 million in taxes on that. Unemployment, this is paid by the employers. You don't pay an unemployment tax, and this is money that the government collects so that when you are unemployed, you can get those benefits. A gift tax, that keeps people from avoiding the estate tax. So once again, if you have a farm that's valued over $2 million, when you're close to dying or you want to retire, you could just give that as a gift to one of your sons or daughters. This is to keep people from avoiding that estate tax. So what people do to get around that now is they'll sell them the farm for like $1. So that avoids that. It's not a gift because you have to purchase it, but then they avoid the estate tax that way and the gift tax. An import tax is also known as a tariff. It's just a tax on imported goods, goods that come into the United States. And the reason we do that is we want our goods that we make here to be competitive. So if we add a tax to imports, then it increases the price of those that they have to charge here. And so hopefully our products are cheaper. And if you remember, one of the things that we did in the Constitution was we can tax imports, but we cannot tax exports. And the sin tax I talked about a minute ago, sometimes the things that they put an excise tax on, we're going to call that a sin tax because they want you to stop consuming those particular items. Let's talk a little bit about where this money goes. There are some mandatory spending accounts, things that Congress mandates. They are required to make payments on certain programs. They don't have a choice. So those things are like Social Security. That is a mandatory spending item. The government has to fund that. That has been promised. Medicare is another mandatory spending account. They don't have a choice. Discretionary spending, that means Congress is free to make the choice about whether they fund these things and how much money goes towards those. Military, surprisingly, is not a mandatory, but it is a discretionary spending item. It makes up about half of all the discretionary spending. Everything else falls underneath that: education, environmental, Veterans benefits, law enforcement, science research, all of those things fall under discretionary. Entitlements. And an entitlement is just what it says. If you meet a certain requirement, you are entitled to that. If you've paid into Social Security when you turn 65, you are entitled to it. You are going to get it. When you turn 65, you are entitled to Medicare. If you meet a certain income requirement, you are entitled to Medicaid. Veterans benefits, obviously, if you served and you are a veteran. Food stamps, unemployment, all of those things you are entitled to. Means testing. A lot of people look at these entitlements and think Social Security, Medicare especially. There are people out there who are extremely wealthy who do not need those programs, but it doesn't matter. They are entitled to them, and they get those Social Security checks, and they get the benefits of that. So a lot of people are saying to solve some of the problems we have with funding these programs is to do what's called means testing and to tell people with higher incomes you're either going to receive little or no benefits at all. If you look at Warren Buffett is a billionaire. He's one of the richest men in the world. When you look at Bill Gates, extremely wealthy. Do they really need a Social Security check is what some certain people are saying. And so because of this means testing, we would say you would receive probably no benefits whatsoever. And as we come down the income scale, but we still have people making huge amounts of money, we will give you some benefits, but not as much as people like us when we retire who don't have a huge pension. Talk specifically about Social Security. Money paid in today goes to retirees. We must have enough workers paying into the system in order for this to work. What's really caused the problems lately is the baby boomers. These are all these people who were born after World War II. And I want to make sure that you understand when Social Security was implemented and the retirement age was set at 65, the life expectancy was 63. So they really did not intend for people to collect for 10, 15, 20 years since the life expectancy is increased. And so we have not, 15 to 20 people paying in for every one retiree. We have about 2 or 3 paying in for every retiree that we have now, and that's really causing the problems. Medicare, you are eligible at 65 to get this. Costs are increasing. People are living longer. The technology is very expensive. And then moving on to state taxes. The sources of income from state tax, the Indiana state sales tax provides most of that. Then income tax, we pay a Indiana state income tax, and then corporations also pay a tax. Categories of spending. Education is the big one here in the states. State college is cheaper than private because probably 75 to 80% of the tuition is paid by our state taxes. Private colleges don't get any of that money. Public safety, they spend money on that. Highways, transportation, public welfare, arts, recreation, and then obviously administrative costs. Those people who work for the state government get a paycheck.